I'm now going to record part two. Um, so we ended up with four shitas. Um, Rabbi Yehuda holds. We'll get to it. Okay. But if you have a large glass container or a large bowl or a large lamp with full of oil and it went out, you're not allowed to move it. Ma'ishanahani. Why is it that we should be strict in this case? Amrula Sula says Seifa Asan the Rabbi Yehuda. The Seifa goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds of Muktzah Machmas Isur. So Ben Hashmoshe, since it was burning, it was Muktzah, you couldn't be metaltal to the lamp, and once it was Muktzah Ben Hashmoshe, it's Muktzah for the rest of Shabbos as well. Maskif lo Marzutra asks Akasha against Ula. He says, Yochi my avol, what do you mean but? According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no but. It is. Anything that was lit Me'erev Shabbos is Muktzah whole Shabbos. But means the older Reb Shimon held that a lamp that goes out on Shabbos you could be metaltal, but he agrees that it's also to be metaltal at Kais Karav Hashoshes. So the Gemara says Elam Marzutra. So Marzutra says Lo Elam Reb Shimon. The but goes according to Reb Shimon. V'chika Shor Reb Shimon B'ner Zuta the Date Lavei. If it's a smaller lamp, so a smaller lamp when the person lit it Erev Shabbos, he knew that it was going to go out after a couple of hours, so he figured after it's out, I can use the oil, I can move it, I can do what I want. And Reb Shimon does not hold migdus katzoi ben hashmoshes is katzoi l'kuli yomim. Aval hani denefishi loy. But if you have a large container, a large glass container or bowl or lamp, so there the man thought and assumed it was going to burn all of Shabbos, so even if it goes out, Reb Shimon agrees of muktzah. See, Reb Shimon does hold of muktzahs. But Votani we learned in a brayse Moiser Hashem Shebener Shebekara Oser Reb Shimon Mater. We learned that the rest of the oil of a lamp or a bowl is also Reb Shimon is Mater. So you see Reb Shimon is even Mater the oil in a bowl. Well, Hasam Koradum Yedaner. There, the bowl is similar to a smaller lamp. So a smaller lamp which we expected to go out, Reb Shimon holds that when it does go out, it's not muktzah. The same as a smaller bowl. Hacha here, where the brisa prohibited you to be metaltal the bowl, it's bekar dumya the kais. It's a bowl similar to a large glass container, and since it's a large container, you had intended it to burn all of Shabbos, and Reb Shimon is moida that that's muktzah. So far we've had a dispute between Reb Yehuda and Reb Meir if you're allowed to be metaltal a used oil lamp. It's not burning. You didn't light it for Shabbos. It just was used once before. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, muktzah machmas miyas, it's disgusting. It's I guess the clay lamp gets dishaped and it's oily, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda holds it's muktzah. Rabbi Meir does not hold of muktzah machmas miyas, and therefore he holds that a lamp, whether it's a new oil lamp or an old a new clay lamp or an old clay lamp, it's not muktzah. Amar Reb Zeir says something shocking. What about pomade? What about, let's say, a metal candelabra, let's say a silver candelabra, shidlika by b'Shabbos, that you lit it a Friday afternoon, l'divrei hamatir, according to Reb Meir, who holds that muktzah machmas miyas is mutter, but aser, here you're not going to allow to be metaltal because Reb Meir will hold migud is katzoi ben hashmoshes is katzoi l'kuli yomim. So an old oil lamp, which was not lit for Shabbos, but it's just miyas, Reb Meir holds that's okay. But a silver candlesticks that were lit like of Shabbos, so it was muktzah for the rest of Shabbos because it was muktzah ben hashmoshes. The divrei oiser, but according to Reb Yehuda, who holds that a used clay lamp is muktzah because muktzah machmas miyas is aser mutter, you'll be able to handle a silver candlestick. Silver candlesticks that were lit if they went out on Shabbos. Versus, what are you talking about? L'meimer, do you mean to say the Rabbi Yehuda muktzah machmas miyas islay muktzah machmas isr leslay? Do you think Rabbi Yehuda only holds that oil lamp, a clay oil lamp, which was used, is muktzah machmas miyas, but he doesn't hold the muktzah machmas isr? But Tanya, we learned in a brayse, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer kol haner shamaltachas metaltal. And Rabbi Yehuda holds metal candlesticks are not muktzah Shabbos. Chutz ben haner shadlika by b'Shabbos, unless you lit it for Shabbos. And if you lit it for Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda holds migdus katzoi for the beginning of Shabbos, is katzoi for all of Shabbos. So rather we have to adjust what Reb Zeir said. What was said is as follows: Reb Zeir, Palmite shadlika la b'Shabbos, livraka alaser. If you have candlesticks that were lit l'kavod Shabbos, it's muktzah for all of Shabbos, meaning Kula Alma, meaning both Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda, will hold of muktzah machmas iser, and if it was also in the beginning of Shabbos, it's also all of Shabbos. Lo yidliku ala, but if it was never lit before Shabbos, divra kol muter. Why? Because first of all, it wasn't muktzah machmas iser in the beginning of Shabbos because it wasn't lit, and it's not disgusting because it's a nice silver candelabra, so therefore they hold it's not muktzah. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Mita sheyichda l'mois asur l'taltala. If you have a bed that you dedicated to use for holding muktzah stuff, so you're not allowed to move it on Shabbos. What does that mean? Meisvei Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nachman bar Yitzchak responds with a kasha. It says, Metaltala ner chodesh avalo yoshan. You're allowed to handle a new clay lamp, but not one that's used, because it's muktzah machmas miyus. So man ner, so take, let's say, a lamp. Dil hachi avida, it's meant to light. So when is it muktzah? Only if you already lit it and it became miyus. But kiloi hidlik ba sharili taltuli, but a brand new clay lamp, which you never lit yet, is mutter to be metaltal. So even though you dedicated it for lighting, but you have never lit it yet, it's not muktzah yet. So therefore, mita, the lavlachi avida, bed, which is not usually meant for muktzah stuff, like all shekain, certainly if you never used it yet, for sure the bed shouldn't be muktzah. So dedicating a bed to use for muktzah stuff should not make it muktzah. Because even dedicating a lamp to be used to light doesn't make it muktzah. Ela itmer, but rather what was said, hachi itmer, was said as follows: Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, mita sheyichda lemois. If you dedicated a bed to be used for muktzah stuff for money, and niach aleh mois, if you ever put money on it, then it's also l'taltla. You're not allowed to handle it on Shabbos because it was dedicated and used. And this is a big chiddush. The Rashi Shita is that according to Rabbi Yehuda, once you dedicated and used it, it becomes muktzah aliba de Rabbi Yehuda, and you can't handle that mita anymore, even for a davar amuter. This idea that keli shemalachta le'iser, you're allowed to be metaltal if you want to use it for a davar amuter. Rashi holds that's only according to Reb Shimon. Famous case of using a hammer to break walnuts. According to Reb Shimon, a kli shemalachta le'iser is muter if you need it l'tzarach gufay. Rashi holds according to Reb Yehuda it's aser. So once you dedicated the bed for muktzah and used it ever for muktzah, even though right now on Shabbos there's no money on it, it's muktzah. But lo yaniach le'amois muter l'taltla. But if you never put money on it, dedicating alone doesn't count. The same way dedicating a lamp for lighting doesn't count, dedicating a bed for muktzah doesn't count. But lo yichda le'amois, if you never dedicated it, yesh le'amois also l'taltla. But if you put money on it with intent before Shabbos, that it should stay there over Shabbos, so the bed is now a basis l'davar aser. But eino le'amois, if you never dedicated it and it has no money, is muter l'taltala, you're allowed to handle it, v'ushal le'hoyela ben hashmoshes, as long as the money wasn't there ben hashmoshes. But if the money was there ben hashmoshes, we hold migdis katzoy ben hashmoshes is katzoy l'kuliyama, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So we said that when something becomes a basis l'davar aser, like a bed that was dedicated to use for money and you had money on it Erev Shabbos, or even if you didn't dedicate it to use it for money, but it had money on it Erev Shabbos, and the money was put on it intentionally, so it's muktzah whole Shabbos. So Amar Ula says, Masiv Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar responded with a kasha. Now, we're talking about a carriage that's meant to transport people and utensils, and this carriage has wheels. Take it slow. Muchne shala, the wheel of the carriage, bisman shehin nishmetes, if it's a removable wheel, so the wheel and the carriage are considered two different items, then ein chiburla, it's not considered part of the wagon, it's considered a separate part. There's a wheel and there's a wagon, and consequently, ein nimdedes ima, it's not measured with the wagon. What does that mean? We know that a utensil, as long as it holds less than 40 saw, it's makabel tuma, because you can be metaltal it. Once it holds 40 saw, then it's too big, it's not makabel tuma. The measurement of 40 saw includes the space inside the utensil and the walls of the utensil. But if the wheels of this wagon are removable wheels, the area of the wheels themselves are not used to contribute to the 40 saw. The wheel is separate and the wagon is separate, and if the wagon holds 39 saw, and the wheel would have been another saw, it's makabel tuma because the wheel is not considered part of the wagon. Part 1. Part 2, vein matzelas ima bo'el ameis. Here's another issue. What happens if the wagon goes over a grave? So if anything that's inside the wagon doesn't become tummy. Why? Because there's a space between the grave and the underside of the wagon, and therefore that space now contains the tumah from the kaver, and people or utensils in the wagon are not tummy. What if something is sticking out of the wagon? If something is sticking out of the wagon over the grave, it would become tummy. What if the thing that's sticking out of the wagon is over the wheel? But since the wheel is considered separate from the wagon, the wheel is its own unit, and since the wheel itself is not a container, is not a keli that it can protect, so therefore if there was something sticking out from the wagon over the wheel can't protect it. Why? Because the wheel is considered separate from the wagon. And the last thing is, here comes what we're looking for. What happens if the wheel, it's an odd case, the wheel has a container inside the wheel where they used to hide money, I guess. So let's say you had money inside the wheel. So if the wheel is separate from the wagon, slowly, then the wheel is now a buses to the money. The wheel is holding the money. So the money is muktzah, the money is not a keli, it's not a food, it's muktzah machmas gufay, and the wheel is a buses to that keli. The wagon is now a buses to the wheel. The wagon is holding the wheel is holding the money, and therefore you're not allowed to move the wagon on Shabbos. On the other hand, what happens if the wheel would have been attached? If the wheel would have been attached to the wagon, let me explain it slowly. If you have money is muktzah Shabbos, it's muktzah machmas gufay. If you have a purse that's holding the money, so the purse is muktzah because it's a basis l'davar aser. If the purse is on a desk, then the desk is holding the purse, and the purse is holding the money, and therefore the desk is also muktzah. So we'll call the desk B, and the purse A, and the money is the davar muktzah. So B becomes a basis to A, and A is a basis to the money, therefore it's muktzah. If the wheel and the wagon are considered two separate units, so the wagon will be called B, and the wheel will be called A, and the wheel is holding the money. So the A is a basis to the money, and the B, the wagon, is a basis to the wheel, and therefore you can't move the wagon. On the other hand, what happens if the wheel would be attached to the wagon, so the wheel and the wagon are one unit, so then it's one big A, the wagon is A1, and the wheel is A2, but the wheel is just a minor component of one large unit. So then, the whole wagon can't be considered a basis to the money because the money is not on the wagon. The money is only on the wheel. So the wheel itself would be usher to be metaltal, but the wagon is not. If it's two separate units, B could become a basis to A, and A is a basis to the davar muktzah. But if it's one big unit, the whole big unit is not going to become a basis because the muktzah is on a minor part of that unit. So only the minor part of the unit becomes a basis, and the major part does not. That's how Taisus explains it. In any case, but if there would be no money on the wagon, now you could move the wagon. Even though there was money on the wheel bein hashmoshes, so we see that we are not concerned about migid is katzoy bein hashmoshes is katzoy the kuli yaima. Gemara says, that Mishnah Reb Shimon, he goes according to Reb Shimon, less lay muktzah. He doesn't hold that migid is katzoy. And Rav, who said that if you had money on a bed, you're not allowed to be metaltal at a whole Shabbos. If it was on the bed bein hashmoshes, Reb Yehuda severely holds like Reb Yehuda of migid is katzoy bein hashmoshes is katzoy kuli yaima. The Beis Yosef says that what happens if somebody has money in a pocket, let's say in his pants pocket, so he says that the pocket is muktzah, because the pocket is a basis to the money, but the pants are not. Why? Because since the pants and the pocket are attached to each other, the pocket is a minor part of the pant, just like if the wheel of the wagon had been attached permanently to the wagon, so therefore only the pocket, the minor part of the bigger utensil became a basis, but the bigger part is not. So the pants are not muktzah, the pocket is. The Shabura says that even though it's true, but really you should not try to move, let's say, a leg of the pant or a waist of the pant, feeling because it's not muktzah, but rather you should shake out the muktzah Shake out the muktzah first, and then you can handle the pants. Now, Beis Yosef also says depends on the pocket. You see, a pant pocket, so the pocket is hanging, the whole perimeter of the pocket is attached to the pants. So the pocket is a separate unit. So if the money in the pocket makes the pocket a bosses, but the pants are not. But a shirt pocket, so then on one side of the pocket is the part of the pocket, but on the inside, the shirt is the second part of the pocket. So then if you have money in the shirt pocket, the shirt becomes a bosses, and then you could not be metaltal the shirt. By the way, as we said before, muktzah only makes a bosses if the muktzah was placed on the bed or on wherever the bosses was intentionally. But if it was left there unintentionally, even though you put it on Friday, but you didn't really intend it to be there on Shabbos and you forgot it, it does not become a bosses. I get to vach. I hope everybody's well, and I have to check. I think we've caught up. I'll check again, and we'll continue Mitzvah tomorrow. So whoever's healthy should stay healthy, and whoever was sick, Kadosh Baruch Hu should give her a refuah shalema. I get to gezinter vach. I get mechaydish.